Alright, I just showed you how to gut the goat, how to take the hide off the goat, and how to get rid of the head and the front legs. Now what I'm going to be doing is sectioning and getting as much meat off this goat as possible. The best part of a lot of these types of animals, deer, cows, goats, sheep, pigs, is the loin. Now the loin is a muscle on each side of the spine. It goes from the back leg to the front armpit. And the way that I do this, people do it differently, is I just jab the knife in against the spine. Okay, so I'm right against the spine. Then I'm going to keep working this right down the spine, taking little shallow saw-like motions. I'm not going super deep. I'm just trying to start my direction of the cut. And you take it down pretty much to here, which is the armpit. And now you can see, let me spread this open. You can see that this is right against the spine here on this side. And now I can get my knife in here and separate it with my fingers and open up that incision, so to speak, open up that cut. Come all the way back to where this white stuff ends, basically right at the end of the ham. The ham is the back leg. Okay. You hear that? Those are the ribs. So now what I'm going to do is, starting up here, the muscle is basically right here. So I'm going to cut right through it. And you don't have to worry about guts or anything at this point. You're pretty much going to ride the bones. And so now I come over on this side, and get in there, and I'm just trying to basically separate this muscle all the way down. And you can take off some of this outer membrane if you want. You have to kind of keep up with me with the camera. But you see that muscle? Okay. This is where it helps to have somebody hold the carcass, but we're good. Okay. So again, I'm just trying to get as much meat as possible, riding my knife, and you just slowly work your way down. And this is a very, very tender cut of meat. I usually cook it the night of because it's so good. And then you end up with this one big tender piece of meat with some membrane on that side. And so I'll get the other one off. I'll get the other side off, and then I'll work on the front legs. I've gotten the loins out, and now I'm going to take the front quarters. So basically, this whole muscle group, I'm just going to put in the fridge until I can process it, and I'll do a separate video in this series on processing the meat after it comes off the goat. So all you do is cut behind the shoulder blade right here, and this comes off really easily. Okay, and get a hold on it. Just come right up here like this. Some of the neck meat's coming with it. That's going to be burger. Doesn't have to be pretty. Alright, so I'm going to repeat that with the other side, and then I'll start working the ribs. A lot of these little flimsy pieces of meat and fat, I'm going to grind up into burger. But as I'm taking it off, I am going to cut off some of the excess fat. Now, in the past, I've made goat fat into soap. I've made all sorts of cool things out of the bones. I get the hides tanned, and so nothing really is going to waste on this goat. So here we see we got some membrane, and depending on how picky you are, you can take that off. And I'm going to have another video on processing the meat where we'll probably take more of this off. But since I'm right here and I got my waste bucket, then basically take that off. Okay, so then these strips, okay, just take this big strip of meat right here off. And this is the type of thing that'll grind up into burger really well. And then I'm going to get between every one of the ribs. And a little bit of fat is good. You know, the fat actually really helps the meat have a good flavor. And I haven't found the taste of my goats unpalatable. Some people say that billy goats are going to taste bad. If you keep the hide and the urine and the guts off of the meat, it should be pretty good. Okay, now, here's how I do the ribs. Now you could either just cut the whole thing and try to cook them like ribs, but I do this. So put my knife in there, cut this way, put my knife in here, cut this way, and now there's this little strip of meat right here. And this is true on any mammal. You basically cut all that meat away from the ribs. All this stuff, I know it looks gross right now, but that's what you make burger out of. Okay, and you see now we got a free rib. And I'm just gonna keep doing this all the way down both sides of the rib cage. So here, check out this side, you can see it a little easier. Right here, I put my knife through, follow the rib, the bone itself, come this way, follow the bone, turn my knife down, spin it around. I'll tell you on it. Well, you pull that big piece of meat away. All of this is really, really, really good meat. And we got as much meat as we possibly could from between every rib and every vertebrae. And now what I'm going to do, the last thing, is take off these, which are the tenderloins. Now they're kind of small, but they're really tender, as the name implies, and they're very, very delicious. So I like to take them off in one smooth cut and just peel it down. This is the opposite of the loins as far as the anatomy. And this is a very tender, delicious cut of meat. The very last thing is to take the two hind legs off, and this gets a little tricky. What I like to do is start with the fleshy part down here, ride my knife right up tight against the bone, and I'm curling it around the back so you can see what I'm doing. Now you have to put your thumb and feel where the pelvis is. It's really weird shape. And just try to get as close as you can to the pelvis and peel the flesh away. See, as I'm going right up to the bone, so this is bone. And then get this big piece, this is actually part of the ham. Okay, and then we got some little bit we can get off the carcass in a minute. So now keep following this up around the anal opening that we cut around before, up here. And so this is all soft muscle right here, so I'm gonna cut through it, right up against the bone. I'm gonna turn it around. Okay, so that's where our cut just was. Now, you're trying to get as much meat as possible. Okay, so now here's the little hidden secret. You don't need to saw through this part. This is the ball of the femur. Now, let me finish cutting through this meat. I'll cut through it from the backside. Okay, this is actually the fun part. Now, there's a couple of tendons in a sheath holding the ball of the femur into the pelvis. So you see the ball? And now you've got a little bit of connection there. You got one connection right on the ball itself. And then you got a connection on the top. And when you get done with that, the whole thing's going to separate from the pelvis. Let me come back from this side. You want to cut through all this meat, right down to the ball. So the only thing holding it on is just a little bit of tissue right there. Okay, you ready? There we go. And now, I'm just going to saw through the leg bone. Just going to saw through the leg bone right here as fast as I can. My partner is holding the other side up because this whole thing will go flying. And now I'll clean this up, do the same thing with the other side, and we're just about done. When all is said and done, all that I'm left with is a rib cage and some bones and some guts. I've saved the hide, I saved the head, I saved the feet, I've got all that meat off it, and I'm just gonna go take this on what I call the boneyard part of the farm and let the scavengers eat it. So next video is how to process all that meat.